Welcome to the Maltepes Show. I am here with Sam Oropeza, former MMA fighter, 18 professional fights, 13-3 record MMA, and he had 2 professional boxing fights as well. 38 years old. He's from Darby Township, Pennsylvania. Republican conservative, correct?
Yes.
And formerly a candidate at large for a seat on Philadelphia City Council, PA Senate candidate 2022. And he's the coach to UFC fighter Joe Body Bags Pfeiffer. So how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on the podcast today. I'm thrilled to be here.
Of course. How's your day going? It's going great?
Yeah. No, it's a normal day. I start every day in Harrogate in Kensington. So my office is like right at the 3600 block of Kensington Avenue. Got some work done, working on, I work in real estate, so just making sure all the plates are still spinning and everything. I'm a mile and a half from my house, which I love, so I get to go home often throughout the day. If I forget something, no big deal. I can be home in just a couple minutes. So ate lunch with the family, you know what I mean?
Awesome.
Drank 3 cups of coffee there. Now I'm on my 2nd cup of coffee with you, so I'm really caffeinated right now.
How do you like the Coffee of Gods? Coffee of Gods, Maltepes Report is brought to you by Coffee of Gods. How do you like the coffee?
It's a bold name, and it's living up to the name. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I enjoy it, man. I really do.
Italian Roast. You guys can get that today. Italian Roast. We have different blends, breakfast blend, African Kahawa. We have Arabic coffee, and we also have Greek coffee. So make sure to check out coffeeofgods.com. Now, let's get to it. Philly guy, right? Philly guy. What do you think of the current administration of Philadelphia?
That's such a, like, asking that question is, there's so much to unpack and so much to talk about. I would say, how do I feel about it? I mean, as a resident, I'm not happy with it at all. And I would really say that my disdain for the current administration here in Philadelphia really started when COVID hit.
So when COVID hit, tell me about that.
Yeah, so we had just moved into Philadelphia, and it was a long process convincing, my wife Amanda she's from Ridley, she's from Delaware County, and it was a big jump to move into the city, to take our family into the city, and we did it for my work reasons and everything, and so the family could be close together. And then COVID happens, and everything becomes more unsafe in Philadelphia. Our children's education suffered tremendously during that time. And when you constantly allow the same group to rule over Philadelphia the way it has, you just see a lack of accountability. And nobody's really questioning it. You know what I mean?
So lack of accountability, lack of responsibility, and owning up to the things that are wrong in this city.
Yeah, and I understand that you have a job, right? But your job is to serve the residents of Philadelphia. And it's just amazing how awful I feel the service we receive here is. And again, that's nothing against the workers. That's nothing against the people who are employed at the city of Philadelphia. It really comes down to our elected leadership, where I see the largest problem at.
So with the elected leadership, do you think it's just a Philadelphia problem, or is it across all major cities? Because it seems like all major cities, they have an uprise in crime, uprise in theft, robbery, murder rates, homicides, and all these different things. It seems to be consistent in many of the different cities in America right now. What are your thoughts on that? What can Philadelphia leaders do right now to help the city?
I think number one, first and foremost, is we need to start targeting the dangerous, violent, repeat offenders that are allowed to walk our streets and cause harm in our communities and in our neighborhoods. And it's a problem within our DA's office. There is a lack of prosecution of crime. And then on top of it, there is a lack of support for the Philadelphia police. So I mean, when you are the district attorney of Philadelphia, you are the head, law enforcement officer in the whole city. So it's like going to work for a boss that you don't like or that doesn't appreciate you. I mean, you're not going to get the best results by doing it that way. Everyone needs to support each other. Like, we're all in this together. We're all living here in the city of Philadelphia together, regardless if you live in Kensington or if you live in Society Hill. So on top of that problem, we are short about 1,300 police officers, and we are the 5th largest city in the country. So essentially, you can't respond. You don't have enough emergency personnel on the streets able to respond if there is, a disaster, if there is an emergency.
Do you believe the reason why do we not have enough officers?
So there's a couple different reasons. The first reason I think of, especially being 38 years old, having 2 young children, is if I worked in Bucks County, if I worked in Delaware County, Chester County, or New Jersey, I would receive much better compensation for the job. The job would also be safer. I would be dealing with less dangerous people who need to get arrested. And ultimately, if something were to happen while working, if there was a bad event that happened, at least you would feel supported by, your. When you look at the suburbs, it's a stronger support system, at least I see. If you look at like Ben Salem, that the district attorney in Bucks County is on point. If you're a criminal, he prosecutes you. So
also another problem, it seems like, is cops don't feel like they're protected.
Yeah.
So when you're not, this is what I've seen. When you're not protected as a cop, well, then you don't feel like the city has your back and the elected officials. Well, then it seems like you start lacking on your job to protect the civilians and citizens. And then citizens end up falling, the city falls into chaos and a lack of order. So with that said, what else are some problems that are riddling Philadelphia?
Look at our public school system. I mean, one of the biggest issues I see, and one of the things that bother me the most, and what really made me want to run is, and again, this is going to sound so typical of any politician to say this, but it's the truth. It's the children in Philadelphia. Like, we don't invest into the children here in Philly. And if you see what these kids are up against, if you understand what it's like, live in Kensington, your mother is, has multiple children with different people. You don't know who your father is, or he's in jail. And the only feeling of significance you feel is when the corner boys, the people who should not be out on the streets, give you attention and want your help to go do something. And if you see the ages of these kids who are committing the crimes, you are seeing 12-year-olds, we're seeing 13-year-old kids doing this.
Barely even teenagers.
Not even teenagers. And it's like, what is your home life like if this is what you think is the best option for you? And growing up without my father, there is and I say this all the time, I say Philadelphia is a fatherless city.
Epidemic.
Yeah, it is. And
no one wants to talk about that. It's the fatherless epidemic that's going on.
It is. It's one of those things because I feel it unites people. It actually could bring people together. There were so many issues that I had in my life growing up without my father, but you don't really realize them when you're young and you need help, developing especially patience, you know what I mean? Controlling your emotions, conflict resolution. And this is the part that I always try to tie this all together, is this is the problems you're seeing in Philadelphia in our streets. We're short 1,300 police officers. If people have an issue with the policing here in Philly and the poverty issue we have here in Philly, why not promote getting a job with the Philadelphia police, developing all these skills these kids need to develop anyway? And now you would have people who are from the neighborhoods policing the neighborhoods,
their own
right?
neighborhoods.
Like, isn't that
and they understand the situation more than anyone else.
Working in Harrogate showed me that when you realize that if I was a cop and I go and arrest that kid over there for selling drugs and he's 15 years old and I take all the drugs off of him, now he's going to have to come back out here. He's going to have to sell twice as much. He's going to be more likely for bad things to happen to him, right? Instead, you could tell that kid to give the drugs back to the drug dealer, and try to get him off the street. So there's so much discretion that needs to be used, especially in Philadelphia neighborhoods.
Yeah, father's epidemic, it's something that people don't ever talk about. And it's the biggest issue. And one of the biggest issues is family structure and the division of family structure, it seems like, in today's age. Divorce rates are higher than ever. And kids are growing up without fathers. And it seems like families are no longer together like they used to be.
And it's like you're not incentivized to start a family, which another thing that I see with a major issue here in Philadelphia, it's like we incentivize bad behavior. If you look at, like, you're not going to get arrested for shoplifting. Is that not the craziest thing you've ever heard?
How is there no consequence for your action?
Yeah, like we're just going to destroy businesses. We're going to destroy people's livelihoods because we think it's wrong to arrest somebody unless they stole $1,000 worth of merchandise.
It's lunacy.
It is. It's absolutely lunacy. And we're getting companies like 𝐒𝐷 to leave.
They want to leave. They're trying to get every store out.
Yeah. Yeah, you have, and then it's like, now you're going to lose this service, right? Whether you like 𝐒𝐷 or don't like 𝐒𝐷, then you're going to lose Target. You're going to lose these, these are hubs for people. People in the neighborhood depend on this.
And when you go into these department stores or, you go to Target, it seems like everything's just locked.
I went to the CVS in Port Richmond, and I wanted a Celsius. And I wanted something like a skincare product. And I had to ask the security, I had to walk with this. Then the security guard had to take like I was a little kid and hand them to the lady at the register. And I get it. This is what you got.
This is what we've come to. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
sad.
It's very sad. It is.
Even the simple things have now become complex.
Yeah. Yeah. Like removing human interaction out from the day. Like it is very frustrating to me. It is like everything's going to be Amazon. You know what I mean? We're just going to go on our phone and order it. You know what I mean?
But the less human interaction you have, the less able you are to control your emotions, I feel like.
It's funny because when you go back and you watch videos from the 80s and the 90s now, I'll go back and look at these videos and I felt like we had a real culture back then. I feel like we are actually losing the culture that made America such a great country. And it had nothing to do with your identity, had nothing to do with your ethnicity, but it had everything to do with what you valued. You know what I mean?
And the respect you had for your own people, your own community, even your own house. Nowadays, like before, people used to clean up the neighborhoods. They used to clean up their house. They used to have respect.
Yeah.
They used to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you don't see any of it.
So that's like the real introduction I got to politics was I was so disgusted with, there was this one street in my neighborhood, Lewis Street, and it was like our walking trail. And it was so unkept. There was trash everywhere. People would just use it to dump their trash. And I started organizing cleanups. And just like you're saying, like I'll go for a walk in my neighborhood. I will see old people litter. I will see young kids litter. I will see people just throw stuff on the ground. And I know that sounds like I'm nitpicking, but really, like, the little things in life
matter.
They do.
Yeah. Well, the devil's in the details.
Right.
The devil's in the details. And if you don't pay attention to the details, what happens is he wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the every day, if you continuously do something, it adds up.
Yes.
In the long run. Whether it's training every day, you take an hour to practice a certain skill.
Yep.
Over a course of time, other people don't, if they're not doing that, you're getting ahead. Those little details matter because it matters in the long run. It builds up.
It's you're developing your habits, you're developing your character. And this is one of the points that I always bring up when you see the arguments pop up where it's, people want to, the progressive side, the criminal justice reform side, like they use however they're feeling as like leniency on, what happened. And it's like, you're taking these kids and now they are conditioning their brains to stand out on a corner, to sell drugs and to have conversations where if you listen to it, you don't want these kids, number one, using that language, thinking those thoughts, and doing those deeds. every day. And this is what builds this behavior over time. And it's, you reach a point where it's like, they're almost, you can't even pull back any further.
Well, think about it. If kids, right, if you're raising kids and we have a father's epidemic going on right now, right? So let's say the father's not in the equation.
Yeah.
Well, the kid's in school, let's say for 8 hours, right? Then you have work. You have to work to support your child, your family. So then when he comes home, not being parented,
Yeah.
and he might be in a daycare if it's a smaller kid, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then how many hours are you actually with your kid, especially nowadays with all of the technology that they're being raised by as well? So who's raising your kids?
I know.
Is it you? Or is it is it the media, or is it the government, or is it who basically the kid is being raised by? It's insane to think, like, it really, the family structure, that's why family structure is so important. People don't realize and understand how important that really is. And the division of parents is, big on kids and the way they're brought up.
Yeah. And so this is where it's so tough for the Philadelphia public schools too, because that is the home life. That is how do you teach a teacher to become a parent? I know there are.
It's not easy.
You can't. And there are circumstances where you hear a teacher can totally change a kid's life forever.
And it's amazing to hear.
And they're the people you want to be teachers. It's just, how can you as a teacher, right, introduce love and attention into this kid's life who's not receiving it? You know what I mean?
And then if he doesn't get it, where is he going to go? Well, if he has no community, that's why community is so important. Yep. He's going to go out to the streets. He's going to be doing some things that he probably shouldn't be doing.
So thinking back, and I always use that experience of losing my dad at 10 years old, like kind of as like a way that has guided my life. But it's also when I start to feel inspired, that's how I know I'm on the right path, right? And it's everything you're saying, right? The fact that I had a family structure to begin with. I had brothers, I had sisters, I had a mother and I had a father who loved each other and loved their family. So I was introduced to that at a young age. On top of that, losing my dad, and it's funny because I had a couple phone calls this week with people who were my neighbors, lived on the same street as me, and they were friends of my mom and dad, and I still talk to them, I would say, on a pretty regular basis. And having that community around me, I mean, especially when the trauma you experience, you need an adult presence really to help you, guide you through. Yeah. And it is that, built up trauma that is, people are hurting. You know what I mean? Like, when you see this violence on our street, like, I get it. Like, people, I consider myself very empathetic. People are hurting. And at the same time too, they want to cause other people to hurt. This is how they're learning to cope with this trauma, to deal with this trauma. You know what I mean? Plus all the conditioning and triggering they have in their environments every day to begin with, So
let's talk about something else. There's a lot of violence going on overseas, and we have right now what's going on in the Israel-Palestine conflict and Hamas. So we have war in Ukraine, Russia, which is another one that's going on huge. Now we're in the Middle East. Now tell me, first off of first basis, what you've heard, what you've seen, your thoughts on what's going on.
So you want me to start with Israel and Pakistan? Or
Palestine.
Palestine, I said Pakistan. Yeah. We'll edit that out.
Right? Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, no, we just want your first outlook on what is going on. All right. And then we'll dive more seriously into it.
So here's my first outlook. Seeing children being massacred, seeing children being casualties of war is it is so terrible. It is so awful. And I want it to stop. I want it to stop immediately. So I don't believe one side should be wiped off the face of the earth too. There are people involved in this. I hate wars. I hate conflicts. I love peace. I absolutely love peace. And the other thing is this. I have friends that are Israeli and Jewish, and I have friends that are Palestinian and Muslim. And both sides. They are some of the kindest people I've ever met in my whole entire life. And knowing that they have family members over there too upsets me. So really, the biggest takeaway is I want the killing to stop. I want the violence to stop. I want the bombing to stop. And I'd like to see peace.
I'm of the same manner. I mean, first thing I saw was people dying,
Yeah.
and that hurts,
It-
especially when you have kids in the crossfires and civilians and people that didn't ask for war necessarily.
yeah, and to see the evil side of humanity is I've had friends that have relatives, one of which was in the Armenian genocide, and I got to hear firsthand accounts of the horrors and the awful things that happen, and seeing it happen in 2023. You look at it's still the greatest time to be alive, but when we see human nature make that evil turn, it is so unsettling to see. And it's, what are we doing wrong right now that this is going to continue, or what are we doing wrong to where we can intervene and we can stop this? You know what I mean?
Are we on the verge of World War III?
Without a doubt. I mean, it is like watching the TV right now and seeing the updates of everything that's happening. It's almost like you're seeing the dominoes get knocked down. Yeah, and it's okay. So everything we left in Afghanistan is now taken, divvied up against dangerous people who are now going to use this to cause harm to other people. Like, arms dealing is a big part of destabilizing a whole region.
Yeah.
So the Middle East is right now, what I'm seeing, it's an absolute powder keg that's about to explode. On top of it, you have the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And the thing that scares me the most about that is we are giving Russia more of a reason to be friends with China. And it's like, why are we creating a Russia, China, North Korea, Iran connection right now, which is only going to harm us in the long run?
Why are you building up your enemies to come together?
To me, it's a terrible strategy.
If you consider, yeah. So I do not know everything that, is why we are here discussing. We're going back and forth. You see things, you hear reports, you see reports, but at the end of the day, you don't know what to believe. A lot of things are false. A lot of things are true. It's very hard. I've seen multiple things where I've seen people say that churches were destroyed.
Yeah.
And they were not. They're in fact still standing. Greek Orthodox Church. They said it was destroyed. In fact, it was not. So you have a report of that. You report of babies that were slaughtered. And there was about 40 babies, supposedly, that Hamas had slaughtered, the report was, or beheaded. I'm not sure. And that ended up being false.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of false news going around. Something to be aware of. But from the reports I've seen, I believe U.S. Secretary of State Blinken will travel to Israel. Russia has made a statement saying they would like both sides to sit together for peace talks. We have water, food, electric, and more cut off to civilians in Gaza, or Palestine, whatever you classify it as. They were advised to flee and leave the area, but had their area bombed. Their only way out, the bridge, I believe. That was the report. Sweden halted aid to Palestinians. EU halted aid to Palestine, then reversed course. And we have some other reports. So we have a lot going on right now. Reports have said that special forces from U.S. have been placed on alert in a Europe country close to Israel nearby, which is concerning.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to note is August 5th, a month or two ago, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and some other countries, they had urged their citizens to leave Lebanon and the area. August 5th. That's about a month or two ago.
Yeah.
Now, Egypt intelligence also said they had warned Israel about something brewing.
Yeah.
Now, the United States, we gave Iran about $6 billion for their hostages, and then there were reports that $6 billion was used to fund the Hamas attack on Israel. Meanwhile, we're backing Israel, and we just gave them some money for their Iron Dome. And all at the same time, it seems reports coming in that weapons we gave to Ukraine are being shown and seen on the Hamas side.
Yeah.
So, listen, I do not know what is going on specifically. I will repeat that. But what I will say, it seems like money that we have given on is being shown on both sides, whether it's artillery and weapons on the Hamas side or it's the Iron Dome on the Israel side. So it's something to keep an eye on. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on, I don't know if you've heard of these things.
No, absolutely I have. I've heard all of it. And also, too, I just think this is the way my mind works also. Israel is surrounded by, a bunch of countries who don't like them. And they've been to war before. It's already happened. I know their border is very sophisticated too,
It
right?
is
And
one of the most secure.
Yeah. So, and again, I've never been there, so I haven't seen enough to fully understand. But from my understanding, to breach what Hamas did to breach that border and the way they were able to through it, I don't know.
Very difficult.
It would have been very difficult, and Israel is always prepared for, an attack like they are. Yeah, like you said. Like
well, I know people that have, been around that border.
Yeah.
And they've talked about how secure it is.
Yeah.
So, no, you're not wrong at all. It would have been very difficult. Not saying that, I'm not saying anything other than that the border is very, very secure.
Yeah.
Now, but you got to watch out. Sometimes it's very hard to know what is going on because some of these reports might be false.
Yeah.
Some of them might be real.
If there's one thing I learned from COVID is we have no reliable source of information in the media, none whatsoever.
It's very hard, and that's why I say as legacy media fades, we are just beginning.
Yeah.
Maltepes report, bringing the world to you. Not just bringing the world to you, but hopefully bringing the world together.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing. Yeah, so let's start at the beginning with this conflict, right? I believe it was Palestine area was owned or controlled by the Ottoman Empire, right?
Yeah.
1917, around World War I, if I'm not mistaken. Let's check this out. I have some notes here. Britain ended up getting in control, yes, I believe, of the area. And is it true that they promised the land of Palestine to Sharif of Mecca while also telling France something else? Is that true? You know?
I don't know, but I wouldn't put it past
at the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
you can buy it and you can buy it.
So that's what I had heard. I don't know if it's true. I'd have to do my research. And they also promised some land to the Zionist movement, right? Which is obviously what is now Israel.
Yeah, post World War II.
Yeah, so a couple of different things. And then Israel didn't become a country until, 1946-ish, 7-ish?
I believe so.
And that was after World War II. Another thing I want to talk about, we talked about, was Semitism, anti-Semitism, right? We had talked about this before the show.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand, just throw it out there like it's nothing, and some people lose the meaning of what it truly means.
Yeah.
Semitism includes those who speak Semitic languages, whether it be, Hebrew, Arabic, or Aramaic. And anytime you say anti-Semitic, well, you're saying they're anti all of those three. But people just throw it around for anyone that anyone says, it seems like. And that's another thing I want to clear up. I want to hear your thoughts about it real quick.
Yeah, so what annoys me about all of it is, I guess if I were to start in a real basic view, it's like we always got to find ways to keep us totally separate, right? But what I will say is, and I'm trying to phrase this as correctly as possible.
Of course.
If I look at through my ancestry, I can see some incredible things and I can see some really awful things. I have never allowed the awful things that have happened in my history, or even the great things, to stop conversations, to want to shun someone else away, to block out someone else's point. I don't know if that makes sense to you or if you understand what I'm trying to say, but I lately I see the word as anti-Semitic get thrown around way too much.
I think it's similar to the term whether it's like, oh, this person's like Hitler, or
Yes.
this person's racist, when in fact that is not necessarily indicative of what they said always. And not only just that, but it also lessens the value of that comparison, whether you're comparing someone to Hitler or whatnot. And that's a shame for the people that actually suffered.
Yeah.
Because if I just say, you're like Hitler, you're like Hitler, you're like Hitler, and I just throw it around out there, well, that's not true, because that's a very specific comparison about a person that a whole world war was centered around.
Yeah.
So to throw that out there lightly, like it's nothing, devalues that comparison and devalues the suffering and pain that all of those people went through.
Yeah. And it's to me, it's like the ultimate gaslight too. And with saying this too, like having a history where my great grandfather was killed in Liverpool, England, during the Blitz. So they killed my great grandfather, and two of my great uncles, Kevin and Richard, were both on board British ships, worked in the engine room, and the ships got sunk by Nazi warplanes. So being a conservative and being somebody that leans to the right, it is a term that has been thrown at me, and it's like what we talked about earlier, where it's, am I going to allow this to get me so emotional? Am I going to do the same thing that bothers me with what other people do? And it's one of those things where it helped me understand, it helped me expand my thinking, and help me to like realize, like, somebody compares you to Hitler. If somebody calls you a Nazi, and you know, right, like in your heart of hearts, you know that you're none of those things. It's just amazing to me how it is allowed to be used as a way to shut people down or to stop people from making a point or getting their message across. And it's
Well, it seems like mob mentality.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say mob mentality. And also, if you look at like the most controlling societies, I mean,
Yeah.
you take, for instance, like imagine what life was like under the Taliban in Afghanistan. You know, the littlest mistake you made, you were dead. If you didn't want to be a part of this group anymore, okay, well, now we'll kill you. If you look at North Korea, the people that want to control everything, this is how it started. You have to create a path first where now I can shut you down. I can stop whatever you have to say because I feel this way about you.
Well, that's why freedom of speech is so important.
And people act like it's not.
I know.
That's the other thing. People act like
it's amazing. It's really amazing that people do not believe that freedom of speech should be allowed.
Yeah, yeah. Or saying something is hate speech, or whatever way they go about shutting down free speech. But I think Canada started like a library for podcasts. Like you have to register your podcast with like the Bureau of Internet, whatever. I
never heard of it.
In Canada. Yeah, and it's like, what do you think they're doing that for? You know what I mean? Because they want to keep a library. It's like, no, they want to monitor free speech. And if you look at our founding fathers, not only did they build one of the greatest governments ever, the reason why it was so important was because of having that freedom of speech. So important to a free society, and they knew it.
Well, think about it. If we cannot discuss openly about subjects and about various topics, well, then how can we ever come together to an agreement?
And
the problem is, nowadays, I can't say anything. Not that I necessarily can't, but many times people cannot say anything without an instant block, instant refusal to discuss or conversate and understand each other's points. And that's right there harmful to society, because if like I said before, if I and you cannot come to this table to communicate and talk about various different issues, various different problems, regardless of our stances, we can agree to disagree. But guess what? At least we'll learn something about one or the other, and we'll have an understanding of where each person is coming from, each person's shoes, each person's perspective.
You know, it's funny you say that. And when you're saying that, I think about what's it like going to the table with 𝐎𝐫𝐤𝐚. What's it like going to the table with Kim Jong? What's it like going to the table with 𝐒𝐫𝐨𝐩𝐿? What's it like going to the table with Trudeau? Like when you see these people, you hear what they have to say, you hear their beliefs, and whenever they're anti individual freedoms, individual rights, I would love to be in one of those rooms and hear what a negotiation's like with them when you're trying to work out a trade deal, you're trying to work. And the thing that scares me the most about government is we created a class, a group, a job title where you are a politician now. And it's people who usually lack real world experiences, like starting their own businesses, spending your money and,
Knowing the value of a dollar.
You get what I'm saying? And it is on any side. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're an independent Green Party. When we create this class of politician and we're not allowing people to get there, where it's somebody who ran a business, somebody who has a family, somebody who has to deal with the consequences of these bad decisions, being the people that are the ones who actually get elected and are allowed to influence our daily lives. I mean, this is one of the big reasons why I feel like our society just continues to go backward. Our children are not as smart as they used to be.
Education levels are down.
Our children are more unhealthy than they've ever been. Physically, mentally, mental illness in this country.
Suicide rates are higher than ever.
Yeah.
That's another point. It seems like society in all, at least here in America, society in all different aspects are going downhill.
Yeah, and you know what? I enjoy these conversations so much, but I also hate the fact that we have to sit here and have like a bitch session. Because I understand. I wouldn't classify it as a bitch session. I think but I do understand your point. We're essentially talking I'd like to talk about our victories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And living in Philadelphia, I mean, what would be a victory you think we should talk about right now?
The only thing we can talk about are the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right? Like you can talk about a sports team.
We can talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, the Philadelphia Phillies, it seems like. You know what's funny, though? People do gather around that.
Yeah.
Because it brings the community together, it brings people together. We need more things that bring people together.
Yes.
And that's something we're lacking, especially in Philadelphia. That's something we're lacking in, I think, general in the United States of America. I think the lack of people coming together, and I think that's part of that. It has to do with everyone's together on social media. Everyone's connected. But no one's really together.
Yep.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, I know what you did yesterday. You know what I mean? I saw the pictures you posted, you know what I mean? But I know nothing about you, But
you don't know anything that happened.
Yeah.
The Instagram, the Twitter, all these social medias, you see a lot of people's highlights.
Yeah.
You don't see their whole lives. And people think they have perfect lives. Oh, I wish I could be them. Oh, you don't know what this person is going through. You don't know what they do in their daily lives.
Yeah.
It could be you think it's all happy and it's all, glamour.
That's why I never get in a road rage incident. I made a point. I'm so aware of it now. When I'm driving in Philadelphia, someone cuts me off.
Just let it go.
Always. Someone wants to drive past me on the wrong side I'll slow down. Go ahead, bud.
Well, that's another thing. Like we talked about earlier, crime rates. And it's not even, it's the values.
Yeah.
It's the moral compass.
Yes. This conversation could get me shot. You know what I mean? This argument, you know what I mean? Letting this guy know I'm mad at him for doing something that endangered a bunch of people now could get me shot.
And how is that even a thing? When this country was so great.
So great.
And my grandfather came here and he said, they told me the streets of Greece were paved with gold. Once he came here, he said, they lied to me.
Yeah.
He said the streets were paved with opportunity.
That's why so many people wanted to come to this country, because you could create a life. And to me, like, why are we not allowing people or helping people who really want to create that life and be an individual, have creativity, and prosper from it? you look at Philadelphia, I mean, we are not friendly to our businesses. You know what I mean? We're not friendly to helping kids become more creative, to bring out that individualism. And it's a conversation for another time too. But I mean, if you just look at our education system, and I think about myself, the way I learned best, you know what I mean? It's not sitting in a classroom for 8 hours a day, repeating information. It's probably one of the worst ways to get me to learn.
Yeah, I agree. The education system, I believe, is very
Dated.
yeah. It's they get in their own way.
Don't you think, like, if you look at school, if you look at how much the world has changed, right? It's not the same world from 2000. I look back at 2010 and I'm like,
it's totally different.
dude, I felt like I was in the Stone Age in 2010.
And the problem is the school system repeats a lot of the same information, and they don't keep you up to date. They don't talk about various different subjects. It's usually repeated. It's like history. We learn about the same constant couple things every single damn year.
Yep.
It's a shame because there's a lot of history out there. There's a lot of different countries, a lot of different histories with these countries that kids should know. And guess what? People learn. You can see history tends to repeat itself, obviously, right? And you can learn from it.
Yep.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's even like on top of what you're saying, even when you do learn good history lessons and you look at the people who have shaped human life, like Genghis Khan, for instance, we never, ever learned about him.
Ever in school.
In school, not once.
Maybe the greatest conqueror ever.
Ever. I mean, he changed the carbon footprint on the planet. That's how many people died, and I think it's still like 1 in every 36 people.
No one talks about Genghis Khan. Nobody. Ever.
Never learned about him. When I started to learn about Genghis Khan, I was in my 20s, and I it was like, this happened.
Blew your mind.
Yeah, like they made it.
You don't learn about Genghis Khan. You don't learn about Cyrus the Great. You don't learn about a lot of different people.
Yeah.
A lot of that history, is not taught in our school systems. And, everything's debatable, what they should learn, what they should not. But nonetheless, education levels are down. So obviously it's not going great. Maybe you need to change it up.
Yeah, I just think the format of, especially like,
and what's it based upon? What's our school system based upon?
To me, it's like working in a factory almost. You know what I mean? It's like you show up, you sit down here, you know what I mean? You take the information in and you repeat it, and then you go to the next one, and then you go to the next one, you go to the next class.
So let's talk about private schools. Let's talk about charter schools. What's going on? Why are they diminishing? Why are they going down?
So
go ahead.
This is another reason why I lean right. I believe the bigger government gets, the smaller the people get. And but we homeschool our kids. I have an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old. We homeschool them. Charter schools are such a great option. If you want to send your kid to a Philadelphia public school, send them. You know what I mean? But why not give the parents the right to choose to where they want to send their kid? And when you see the government tell you what's good for you, you're already on the wrong track. Like it is one of the big reasons why I wanted to win. It's like how do you wake people up to knowing, like, the more you are here with us, the more dependent you are becoming, less you're growing, and the more dangerous your life is going to become now.
Well, if you've ever read Milton Friedman or known about him, he talks about, well, anything the government does, the more they do, the less efficient they do it.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's designed to, like, become a job. Like, it's like, now we make this department. Now we'll make that department. Now we'll make this department. And it's, well, we're not going to solve this problem because it's a sweet way to give my friends jobs. And if I were to say their biggest issue in Philly, like one of the absolute biggest issues are the patronage jobs that go around. It's, my buddy, I want to give my buddy a job. And it's like, that's all fine and dandy, but can your buddy solve this problem? Can your buddy actually come up with solutions? Can he get results? Is he effective? Because they're the people who should be getting these positions.
Yeah. So let's go back to the Israel-Palestine, World War III, possibly.
Yeah.
You said we're heading for. What do you think is the best course if you were in power
Yeah.
and you were high-ranking official?
Yeah.
What do you think would be the best course of action for the United States going forward?
I think the best course of action would be to, if Israel and you can say Palestine, but it's not going to be Palestine. It's going to be every Arab country in that region helping. You're also seeing, countries like Chechnya.
I've heard it.
Yeah, saying they are
Going to back them.
Yeah. So
they're not a joke.
They go back and watch the footage from the 90s when Russia, Chechnya is a little dot on the map next to Russia. And Russia's like, here's money every month. Like, stop torturing us, stop tormenting us. But it's going to create a larger problem. It's going to pull.
It's going to put everyone together at different sides.
Yes. It's going to pick a side.
Pick a side. And that's the worst thing because, like we talked about, there is no open communication.
Yeah.
John F. Kennedy once said, he talked about war. And I can pull up the quote, but let me pull up the quote real quick.
Is it the secret societies or the...
No, it's not the secret societies. It's about peace and war. I have it right here. I was trying to think of it. Let me pull it up. Okay. Examine our own attitudes towards peace itself. Too many think it's impossible. Too many think it's unreal. That's a dangerous and defeatist belief. It concludes war is inevitable and that mankind is doomed. We need not accept that view. Our problems are man-made and therefore can be solved by man.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. That makes me think of Kensington Ave when I think of man-made problems. But back to your point that you were saying where we want peace because peace is going to be the most important part of it. We also want to get anyone who believes in using terror as a way to, change the way a country should function. They need to get wiped off. Like any terrorist needs to get wiped off the planet, like they do, because that's another major issue. But ultimately, I would want peace, and I would want strong leaders in that region so we can have stability. And if you look at the Gulf War, we had 2 Gulf Wars with Saddam Hussein. If you saw what Saddam Hussein did, he was the guy that made sure Iran didn't get too large and try to take over the whole Middle East.
Persia.
What's that?
Persia.
Yeah. So having someone like Saddam Hussein, he gassed the Kurds. He was a awful person. He was. I'm not for Saddam Hussein, but when we take leaders out of this country, when we kill Gaddafi, when we, try to get the leadership that we want in there that's going to help,
We try to set up our own governments.
We're going down that path of totally destabilizing, and also every country should have their own sovereignty to do exactly that, like use their own money, use their own monetary system. You know what I mean? Let them trade oil on whatever metric they want to use.
That's another big thing. We have the introduction now of BRICS.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of BRICS.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of different countries come together, whether it be Saudi Arabia, Russia, China. I believe Iran is part of it, right? I could be confused.
India is the I.
Oh, India. Okay. So we have a lot of different countries coming together to create BRICS, new system to challenge the U.S. dollar that is backed by gold. We went off gold a while back, 1970s, I want to say, right?
Yeah.
We went off gold.
When
Nixon took us off, yeah. So what are we backed by? Do you believe that we are threatened by BRICS, the United States dollar? And do you think that the dollar is falling?
So I think anything that China is involved in, they're trying to destroy us. They absolutely are. 𝐒𝐫 Jinping, the Chinese Communist Party, the fact that we're putting ourselves in a position where they can win and we can continue to grow their economy while ours weakens is one of the worst strategies. It would go down in history as one of the worst strategies ever. So yeah, I do believe they're trying to replace the dollar, and strong leadership in this country, and also using our own resources in this country, which we have tons of, is going to keep us a strong country.
Now, one more thing, talking about us being a strong country, with us sending now aid to Israel, us sending now money, we just send some money to actually Iran, send money to Ukraine. Does that leave us at a point of weakness?
100%, absolutely. Look at our oil reserve right now. I mean,
Strategic oil reserve, petroleum reserve, is at an all-time low. Meanwhile, we have war in the Middle East, which probably means a lot of more people will get involved. Not necessarily, but it's very high possibility that more Middle Eastern countries get involved.
Yep.
And that will not only increase oil prices, but will hinder United States citizens, because everything is made with oil.
Everything. We are trying to remove that from our lives. I mean, it's like it is one of the most dependent products we have. And also petroleum, the gas industry in America. I mean, my first job out of trade school was at Sunoco refinery. So, I mean, this is an industry that has good paying jobs. It's an industry that a lot of Americans depend on because that's their career. So yeah, man, we are going down a really dark path right now.
Dangerous road.
A dangerous road. And, if there was one message I could get out to people, the anti-establishment candidate is the candidate you should be looking into the most right now. If you see the amount of money spent to get people elected, it's almost like you look at a governor's race, you are looking at, well over $40 million, I think it is. I think it's closer to $50 million to win that race. So who do you think you're going to go help as soon as you get in there? You know what I mean? And it's like, look at a U.S. senator's race. Look at a U.S. congressperson's race.
Lobbyists.
They are, once you're elected, how can you serve the residents now? I just don't understand how it works. So the one that is using their money, the one that is not tied to these special interests, is the candidate that I feel is going to do the most good for America. Yeah,
no, 100%, because they don't have their own necessarily interests involved, or their own special agendas involved, but they have the Americans.
Yeah, and
America's agenda involved.
It's Kennedy came to Philadelphia. I like him.
Yeah,
I'm not telling anyone to vote for him.
He just dropped out of the Democrat side. He's going to be running independent.
So 2016 was like the most. That race for president I was so into, and I really started to look at the Democrat side and wondering how they do it. I mean, if you look at the DNC and the way they pick their candidate, people will come up to me and they'll be like, "I can't believe you can be a conservative and state something like whatever things they hate about, conservatives." Right. Which is usually some dude in Idaho where it's like, dude, I don't live that lifestyle. So if you hate this guy who lives out in Montana or something like that, I am. That's not who I am. But if you, oh man.
Talking about Democrats, DNC, Republican,
right
side.
Yes. So 2016 is when I first started following, and I saw how basically every Democrat picked Bernie Sanders, and Hillary Clinton was the candidate. And to me, the fact that I can't choose, the fact that my vote actually doesn't go towards picking who we think is the best candidate for president, right then and there, I'm out. I'm out of the club. There's no way I can sign up.
Yeah, there's it seems as if the country and elected officials are whoever's being lobbied the most.
Yeah.
Or whoever is the favorite to pick ends up getting in that chair or ends up getting in their lead position. And it's unfortunate for all the people that are running truly and honestly and earnestly for the American people. And we have now, that's actually RFK's point of view. That's why he's not running Democrat, he said.
Yeah.
He'd rather run an independent.
And he gets made fun of and ridiculed so bad. They call him crazy. They call him a kook. It's like he's a Kennedy, number one. His uncle was assassinated in broad daylight in Dallas, Texas. I mean, still, when I think of the JFK
His father was assassinated.
Robert Kennedy assassinated too. And it's like, this guy actually, his family hit him on a personal level. Like, he understands the fact of, like, there are dark forces and entities at work that are putting their hand into politics, that are putting their hand in the way we live our lives every day.
Well, Kennedy, he came in, and I had told my brother this first time he talked about even potentially running. I said, a lot of people aren't taking him serious.
Yeah.
Right? You know, on news, you won't turn on the TV, they're like, oh, he's a kook, he's this. Kook, Robert F. Kennedy wants to run. I said, Steve, brother, I said, I don't know if he's going to win, but he's going to get some steam.
Yeah.
First of all, he's a Kennedy. That name holds weight. I said, second off, he's going to attack every podcast platform.
Yeah, he is.
Because he knows he's not allowed on the media, on media platforms, on television and whatnot. They're not going to give him much of a platform. So, yeah.
But it's like Joe Rogan's, more people. Why are they not on that? Why are they all not? Go ahead.
So that's what I said. I told my brother, and that's exactly what happened. He started going to, whether it was Peterson, whether it was Theo Vaughn, it was all these different people.
Tim Dillon. He went on the Tim Dillon show.
Dillon show. So he knew that, because the biggest reporter, you know who that is? It's Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, 100%, yeah.
It's not any reporter on CNN,
MSNBC,
Fox News. It's not in Fox News, CNN, News. No.
Yeah.
It's Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And he knew that, and look at him now.
Yeah.
He's bigger than ever. The odds, from when he started, if you look at the odds to win presidency, from when he began to now, they've dropped tremendously.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if he wins. That's a different story. And I don't know if people will line up to vote for him, whatnot. But guess what? A lot of people who are running, who are independent thinkers, or they swing between voting Democrat and Republican, both sides, they're paying attention to what he's saying.
Yeah.
He was here in Philadelphia the other day.
Yeah.
And he talked about it.
I was bummed out. I missed it. I actually really wanted to go.
Yeah.
He did it at the Constitution Center. And I feel it has never been more necessary to have candidates like Robert Kennedy and like Vivek Ramaswamy, where maybe they'll never get elected, but they are saying the things that need to be said to wake people up. And they have a big enough platform to get that message out there. You know what I mean?
So it seems like, it seems like he's talked about Vivek, talked about RFK Jr. Seems like we're starting to get more of these people as of late.
Yeah.
That are saying, you know what, maybe I can run. And they go out there and, you know, now you have the power, like I said, of podcast platforms and whatnot, people attacking different areas, and they're getting some steam. And that's something I think we need, because it's not always great to have the same people running and running and running and running.
You need disruptors.
You need disruptors.
I love that I was a big part of disrupting the political machine in Philadelphia. And I want people who want good results, that want everyone to win in the city of Philadelphia, to get out and to run for office. Go talk to your local, like you have your ward leaders, have, you know, your head of the party. Go talk to them. Go see if you think they are making the best decisions or are focused in on the right issues. More eyes need to be, like, more light needs to be shined on these issues. And, you know, one of the most awful things is when you see just people will be corrupt for like $500. It's like, we need to get the
well,
it can't be a hustle. It can't be something you want to hustle.
Real quick, if people will cheat on a basketball game, one-on-one outside.
Yeah. Or a game of Uno.
Do you not believe that they will cheat or try to for some of the most powerful positions in the world?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel it's a big part of it.
Game of Thrones.
right?
Right. So yeah, no, that you're definitely true about talked about the $500. If someone's willing to cheat for something as small, like not small, but something small as a basketball game outside, or football, whatever the case is, you don't think people are trying to swing things in their favor at the highest levels?
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. Before we go, I want to talk about the Philadelphia War Room.
Yeah.
That you were talking about with me.
Yeah.
Want to explain where to find the Philadelphia War Room, what you're working on and whatnot?
Yeah, so put it this way. I'm looking at your production, and I'm going to be asking you, like, can you give me some info on these cameras? So we filmed a couple episodes, but it was more so to get the sound right, to get the video right. And we are filming again this week. Hopefully we'll have the podcast out there within the month, but we're waiting until we can launch the website and launch the channel. We'll obviously be creating social media channels for it. But yeah, give us a month. It's been a hectic process because I'm transforming part of my house into the studio. So
oh wow,
nothing has gone according to plan. We were supposed to
nothing ever does.
August 15th. Here we are, October. You know what I mean? And we're still trying to finish everything up. So. But yeah, no, I appreciate you talking about it. It's coming, it's on its way, but we want to have these conversations where more people get to hear it, and we want to get, people that were in these positions as well too, to come on and to talk to us about it, because, Philadelphia has a history of, corruption, and this is something that we want people to see on every level. You know what I mean? We want people to understand what's really happening here, and give you a bird's eye view from the people who were there.
Yeah. It's needed.
Yeah.
It's needed, the bird's eye view.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to see all perspectives, all 360 degrees.
Challenge your belief systems. Like, you really need to, it's so upsetting to me.
The wisest man alive is the man that knows nothing.
I like the Proverbs. I do.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. It's Socrates.
Yeah,
Socrates.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great one. Yeah, so make sure to pay attention to the Philadelphia War Room. Before we wrap up, a couple other things that you want to share, if there's anything you want to share.
No, I mean, thank you for having me on the podcast. Just if I were to give a shout out, I want to give a big shout out to Joey Pfeiffer. We were just in Vegas last week. He won his third UFC fight.
Wow.
With a finish against a guy who has never been ragdolled or really, beat up on the way Joey did. So it really showed the level that Joey is at. And from coaching that kid since he was little, it was just so surreal to be standing in the UFC cage and look over and there's Tom Brady sitting cage side.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
it's joy. It's joy because you see the others. I said this in one of my other podcasts. I find joy from seeing others around me succeed and happy.
Yes.
And that's what fulfills me.
Yes.
Like, honestly, I could care less about myself.
Yeah.
But when those around me are happy, I can sit back, I can watch, and I just get inside, you feel that joy, that smile.
Success attracts success. When you show happiness or success, more success shows up. You know what I mean? And you have to be happy for other people's successes, because if you're not, you become envious, and having envy is one of the worst
traits.
It is. It's, you can't have something, so you don't want someone else to have something, and it's one of the scariest.
We should be building each other up instead of breaking each other down.
And the other reason why I brought Joey up too is because I was a part of his life since he was younger. He comes from a very difficult and troubled home life. He was homeless for a part of time when he was only 16 years old. He is somebody who I always stayed in his life because I wanted to see him succeed, and I knew he had the talent. And it is, I urge everybody, like, being able to make a positive impact in Joey's life was like, man, that would be awesome to run for city council. That would be awesome to run for state senate and actually be able to take this that I learned, that I developed, that I figured out with somebody and use it to help other people, use it to change other lives. And I urge everybody, man, find a protege, find somebody you can invest time into. Because I will say this, there was hours I spent with this kid where there was no return. There's absolutely zero return besides seeing him succeed. And I really do believe the only way you can really help somebody get over that hump and succeed in life is if you are willing to do it from a place of actually giving, and it's
actual love.
You exactly, and you can't you can't make it like once we get to this point, you have to give me these things. It's like, dude, once we get to this point, we got to get to that point. We got to keep going. We got to keep going, and it is seeing how it's paid me back now with having no expectations of, I don't want to say no desires of it paying me back, but having the zero expectations, it's just like, man, it is like you feel like you're swimming out in the ocean by yourself, and then all of a sudden someone grabs you out of the water, and it's like I look up and it's Joey pulling me out of the water now.
There's a saying in Greek, philotimo, right? And what it means, essentially, there's no direct translation, but what it essentially means is, living kind of through the lens of the essence of love and honor.
Yeah.
And that's something that's been lost, it feels like.
It is, it's funny you say that because I say this all the time. There is a certain amount of honor that I can't, if I dishonor myself to this level, the amount of pain and, the feelings I would feel, it's like losing that honor in this society, where people stoop to any level. And it's
saddening.
It's, yeah. You can sit there and think about the emotions, but I mean, at the same time too, it's saddening, and it is, it attracts more of it. It's one of those things where you help change one person, which helps change another person. It's like if someone does a good job. Yeah, if someone does a good job, they won't tell anybody. Somebody does a bad job, they'll tell everybody. Yeah.
Success has 1,000 fathers. Defeat is an orphan.
Shit, I like that one too.
Great one.
Yeah.
JFK, I believe, or RFK maybe.
Okay.
I think maybe he got it from someone, but that's where I heard about it. I've studied and read about a lot of the Kennedys. I have a book over there that talks about killing Kennedy, another one, yeah. So
the craziest thing about the Kennedys is if Joe Kennedy was alive today making his fortune, he'd probably be running fentanyl. Because he was a rum runner.
Yeah. And he was a bootlegger, and I actually talked about that on the podcast with my father about the Kennedys and how they got money and whatnot. So, all right, I think it's time to wrap up. I think we're perfectly good. Thank you for coming on. It was great talking to you. I would love to have you back on sometime.
Hell yeah!
Want to do it?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it then. Part 2 will be coming soon. The Maltepes Show Part 2 with Sam Oropeza. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you.
Thank you.